I will bring the meeting to order. I'd like to do roll call first. So we have Sarah Kramer here, and we have Mark Scully. I know that you are here. You put yourself on mute. And Bob Crowther.
Here.
And Mike Tanka said he was joining us tonight. I don't see him, so I will assume he'll tap in shortly. And I know that Rich Cortez is not able to join us this evening. I don't believe Mary and Jeff are joining us. I'm not sure. I have not heard from either, so maybe they will tap in shortly. At this juncture, I would say we do not have a quorum, so we would not be able to vote on anything this evening. So it will be a informal meeting. Okay, also, we do not have a public audience as far as any questions that have been sent in, so we can just go past that. And we have the minutes, which I'm not going to read since we don't have a quorum, so we'll table that till next month. And any announcements? Sarah, Mark, Bob, does anybody have anything they want to convey before we start? Okay.
No, nothing for me.
Okay. I just want to let everybody know that next month we're going to have Abe join us at our October meeting to speak with us about the updates on the Community Match Fund. And the hopes is that maybe we could be able to tap into that program and do some fundraising for next year to possibly do a sustainability event for Earth Day. And hopefully we'll be able to do that with the new student club or student subcommittee. We presented the information to the Board of Selectmen on Monday evening, and I'm just waiting to hear back if they approve and how we are to proceed, if it's going to be an informal club or a formal subcommittee that needs to follow Robert's rules. And then once we get that, we can proceed with having our first meeting. Initially, we were looking to do this next Thursday, but unless I hear in the next couple of days, I'm not sure if that will actually happen. Maybe we'll have to postpone it to a following week. So I will let everybody know as we find out more information on that. So tonight we have Jess LeClaire from Sustainable CT joining us. I asked Jess, we had a phone conversation a couple of weeks ago. I just wanted to touch base with her and talk to her about our post-certification and just kind of getting momentum started again and looking for suggestions from her. And we were talking about the new actions coming up, and she asked if we would be interested in, being one of the groups that would review the upcoming changes. And I said, absolutely, we would very much like to be involved in that. So here she is. Thank you, Jess, for joining us. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time out this evening. And just so you know, I did provide the information that you sent to me to the group to review prior to our meeting this evening.
Okay.
And Ray, did you have the information to share on the screen?
Yeah, well, which one are you looking for?
I actually have a little PowerPoint to walk through, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not one of the two that you sent to me?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
It's a shortened version of the longer version that you watched on the
Okay. Okay. All right. Good.
So,
Are we all set to move forward?
I mean, for you to start?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
For you to show a PowerPoint, do I have to give you?
Yeah, you'll have to give me host privileges.
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be nice. I'm making you the host.
All the power. And I can send you the slides after this for your minutes if that's helpful.
Okay, you should be in charge.
Thank you.
All right. So first off, thank you for having me here tonight, for dedicating a whole meeting to giving us feedback. We really, really, really and truly appreciate the opportunity to learn from and with your team. You all know the program incredibly well. You're silver, as you know, so you've sort of worn all of the actions. So just so I don't duplicate things you've already heard, Sherry mentioned she provided the recording of the webinar that we presented last week that walked through the proposed updates. It's busy, and did anyone have a chance to watch that?
I did not.
I did not.
I had a little trouble with the link, but I did click through the presentation part. I think it had some click throughs on the, I don't know if it was a PowerPoint that came through. So I did have a chance to look at those, but I couldn't see the video.
Gotcha. Well, all right, I can resend the link, and we'll just cover it all today. The first link was an error on my part, and I was very upset because when you send those things out to 30 plus people and it doesn't work, that's pretty embarrassing. So my bad, I apologize for that. So we'll kind of start from the top. I'm going to keep this pretty high level, and we can dig in deeper to anything that you want to dig in deeper. But let me just share my screen and pull up a PowerPoint. Can you all see this PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. So what we're doing at Sustainable CT is proposing several updates for 2021 for the coming year, and those updates will stay and will continue to add and grow as we move forward. As you may or may not know, the program was created with the municipal voice always at the forefront. So when we were dreaming up even a program like Sustainable CT, we had first selectmen and mayors at the helm helping us shape the ideas. What should we include? Equity, environment, economy, what should be involved in the program? And we've kept that throughout the way. We had formal working groups when we first started. We now get feedback all the time, every day, from towns, from action reviewers, from our fellows, from people who are providing assistance to communities on where we should go and what we should be considering. And we're always taking that in. We've got lists on lists. You should see our shared Google Drive. It's full of Excel spreadsheets of things to be considering. Each year, since we've launched in 2017, we make updates. So we try to adjust the actions so they're more clear, that we're providing options that speak to the different kinds of towns in the state. And they're usually, well, they have been specific to the actions that are in the program. In 2020, we created our first new action since we launched. But next year, we're proposing 4 new categories and several new actions. So they're more substantial changes. And we wanted to make sure that we're ground truthing that with towns, especially towns who have moved through the program and really know its ins and outs and what might work for them, since you've tested out a lot of the different kinds of actions in the program. So the biggies that are proposed for this year, we are suggesting some streamlining to our credit for past action section, and I'll review that change. We have some specific it's been a long day. We have some specific revisions to some of our existing actions. So some of the actions that you might have worked on in 2019, we just continued to update. So we've got some proposed modifications. We have some proposed new actions that we're very excited about, but want feedback to make sure we're including everything that we should be including, that we're not leaving out different towns, and sort of working within where you're at and where you want to go. And then we have some new categories, as I mentioned, and we're shifting around our framework a little bit. And that really, you all know the equity action was formerly known as category 9.1. We're moving that to the first action. It's the only required action. It's foundational in our program. And it really should be the first thing that towns are thinking about. So we're moving that from 9 to 1, which, if we made no other changes, means every single action's number is going to be updated, which makes me feel very squeamish because I've memorized those numbers, as you might have, but now we're sort of reinventing our alphabet. So that's coming up. That's just a little change that will have big impacts as we get used to our new vocabulary. So for tonight, for ease, and I hope for ease, I was hoping to review one of the changes and then just have a discussion with your feedback. If you like it, you don't like it, you can be as critical as you want to be. That's usually more helpful for us than positive feedback, though we don't mind hearing the positive feedback too. But just let us know what your thoughts are. And I've got a piece of paper that I'm going to take notes on. So if you see me looking down, it's me trying to capture the conversation. I don't have a dual monitor here at my home office, so I want to make sure that we do hear everything that you can say tonight, that you have to say tonight. If any of this you want to sort of let percolate and follow up in a couple of days via email or a phone call, happy to do it too. Sometimes you need to let ideas marinate. So the first big change, and this would be for all of the actions in the program, we want to simplify the credit for past action. As you know, it varies between actions and sometimes between sub-actions. And for us, it's always been a struggle. We've felt the need to draw the line in the sand somewhere, where if you've done something 50 years ago, if it's not generating impact, we're going to need to move on and do something new. But how do we set that year and what's fair? And we've bumped up with towns who have done some really cool work that's very close to the look back and just outside of it. And that's frustrating for the town and for us. Since we've set these rules, we have to stick to them. But how can we be moving forward to get what we're hoping to get out of that? And that's ongoing impact in a community. So what we're proposing is a rolling credit so that if you've done something far in the past, but it's still generating impact and you can show us that, you're good to go. Doesn't matter when you did it. So we have an example up here. Let's say you passed the Complete Streets policy 20 years ago, but that's still your policy. You use it every day to make decisions on your Complete Streets plan. Great, you get credit for it. So that's one really big change. The next one is for new actions that you're working on. And if you want to think to that equity action that you worked on several equity actions in 2019, we want to give you more time to do that work. So you get 3 years now. If you want to continue the work that you started in 2019, you can do that. We recognize that some stuff just takes a while, and that's okay. And we want to allow for these ongoing projects to grow and develop. So it's sort of tied in with that rolling credit, but that's another consideration. And there will be some actions, though far fewer, where you get points once and that's it. So one example is opting into the CPACE program. You pass a resolution to opt in, that's it. You're going to get the credit one time, no more. But we will credit that work of working towards implementing the resolution, of having educational events for your business community, for getting projects up and on the ground. There'll be far fewer of those, but that's sort of the, where we're thinking on simplifying the credit for past action. So I'll pause there just to hear your thoughts.
Jeff, I have a question on, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jerry.
Well, I was just going to ask on the 3 years of the equity. So if we had something in our submission in 2019, and could that also be a rolling credit?
As long as you're still working on it. So I think you had one of them was the rainbow crosswalk. Let's say you wanted to continue on that work, that would be totally fine. Okay,
like the Board of Ed work, obviously,
yes.
That's certainly going to be something that's ongoing. Yep. As well. That's the one I was thinking of the most. If you can show it's ongoing or it's something that you're building on, then it can still be used. Okay. Go ahead, Mark.
That makes a lot of sense. I like the overall structure. I'm wondering about solar panels. It seems like you could put solar panels up and you're not really then doing any, they are producing energy, but it's not like we're expending any effort. I hate to talk ourselves out of credit, but...
You're still going to get the credit because that action 6.4 is about energy offsetting. So we're looking at the number. We're not looking at the amount of panels or the process of putting them up or the process of purchasing RECs. It doesn't matter to us how you get there. It's the impact of, the energy offset of municipal energy use. So for us,
that makes sense.
So that's a credit. That's a credit somebody could receive every year.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right.
Other thoughts on this one?
I think overall it seems like it sounds more fair. It's hard to be doing things that seem like they're you would get points for the actions. And again, like they're either out of that time frame or you may have already counted, but you're still doing it. So I think this overall seems to be a bit more fair and pointing everybody in the right direction.
Well, the other question I have too, though, is, and I think Sarah, I think this had to do with a report that you folks were working on, is because it hadn't been completed yet. Like it was something that was in the works, and it takes a while to put these studies together. Now, would you be able to get credit for something that is in the process of being put together? Jess?
Sorry, if there's any awkward pauses for me, that's me just trying to write down what I'm hearing. No, at this point, no. That's something that we can bring back to the group consideration of partially completed projects. We've said a hard no on that because things happen. So it could be that you're on your way to complete a project and then COVID happens. Can never predict it, but it can completely stall or reroute funding or time. And also, we like to use the certification reports as guides for towns. So once you do get certified, everything that's in your application, as you know, becomes publicly available on your report. And we point other towns to those certification reports all of the time for examples. And if it's only a partially completed project, there might be something that a town can learn, up to a point, but they can't see the whole project and where you landed and those final outcomes. But that's a consideration that we can bring to the group for thought, certainly.
Yeah, I believe it was, I think it's the master plan that, Sarah, that your commission is working on, the Parks and Rec. What's that?
Yeah,
that in development last year. It was in the process, and so we
were just starting to do a Parks and Open Space master plan. There had been something really old, which was in the POCD before, and I think we may have been. I can't remember if we were able to count that or not. But yes, we're doing a new one, and it will be done, hopefully approved at the end of this year.
Oh, great!
But
so you'll be good to go.
Yeah. So we should be fine for 2020 if we're doing anything. But again, if we implement it, actions will be taken on it afterwards. So it's nice to know that it would count. It would count for this year if we put it in, and then years moving forward. So.
Any other thoughts on this one, or should I move to our next slide?
No, go ahead.
All right. Let's see here. So we've got, it's not really a revision to the equity requirement, but for 2021, we are proposing to keep the equity toolkit in as you know it. So you do the toolkit for 1 action for bronze or 3 actions for silver. So we're not proposing a change to that yet, maybe never. But what we are proposing is adding 2 optional equity actions that you still have to do the required toolkit, but 2 optional components that we'd like your feedback on. The first is to have municipal representatives attend a 3-part workshop. It's an equity training series that we've run over the past 2 years. We've done them in person, and this year we've done them virtually. And we hope to run them at least virtually 4 to 6 times next year as well. So it's a 9 to 12-hour training. We'll see how it shakes out with the programming. But we'd have an elected official, a director-level staff person, and then a commission member at least. So those 3 of a team from the town attend each of those sessions. So you can have as many as you want. They're free. They're really great, often very powerful learning experiences, but that group of 3 would attend a training. So that's part 1. And the other optional action would be to have the town develop, adopt, and publicly share a statement on your community's shared vision for equity. And I'm just going to read what this is because I don't have it up on the screen. Your statement should be unique to your town, written through a lens that addresses both the town's specific history with inequity and justice and the current challenges being faced. You should consider current municipal processes that promote inclusion and cohesion that ensure adequate representation of all community members. And we've got some elements that we would require in that statement, but that's just another optional addition for the 2021 framework. So interested in your thoughts on those two proposals, as well as the equity toolkit itself, if you think any future changes could and should be made to that.
I have a question, because I think with the equity training, it seems like there's equity training going on within different groups, like at the town level, with the school, with the elected officials. So it's not. So maybe they've already had some equity training, but not through Sustainable CT.
Mm-hmm.
How would there be credit for that?
No. So it would just be
it has to be
participating in our trainings. Yeah, we've worked with the people who run the trainings used to be on our board of directors, and they are very familiar with the program. They've sat on our equity working group, and they've shaped these trainings to sort of speak to the program. They speak to bigger issues, of course, but they sort of bring it home on how you can move forward in your town. So these would be specific to these to the trainings that we're offering.
Okay. So no credit if they had a training, but outside of Sustainable CT.
Right.
Okay. And the benefit is being that you think it would cover a broader array of subject matter.
Well, we just have no way to know what the other trainings include.
Okay.
And this one we control. We know what the content is. It covers a wide range, and it's probably a lot longer than the other trainings folks are attending, since it's in person it was 12 hours. Online we were doing it in 9.
Okay. We're
also thinking through with the trainers. Oh, Mike Tonka is coming. I allowed someone in. I hope that's okay. We're thinking through with the trainers if we can build in some equity coaching time there. So we're sort of making a whole package of preparation for towns to move through the equity action in our program.
Okay.
These sound like really good sort of improvements and expansions of the whole equity idea. I think the more you could involve a broader group of people in this discussion would be good, because I think looking back, we had some fabulous equity actions, but probably not many people in town really know about them or understand them.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea of broadening the discussion.
Thanks, Mark. Other thoughts? All right. I'm just going to keep pressing forward, hearing no thoughts. But again, if anyone wants to share via email or a separate call, happy to do that. So as I mentioned, we have some updates to our existing actions, some of the actions that you might have been working through last year. At any rate, they're all being renumbered. Some are getting some really minor updates that are not worth mentioning. Some are getting some larger updates. I'm not going to go through each one of these because it's late in the day and that wouldn't be very fun for anyone. And I can send this out if Sherry hasn't sent it out. We have hyperlinks to the proposed updates for each one of these. So it's possible that you've seen some of them and have some thoughts that you'd like to propose, or maybe just through working through some of these last year, you have some feedback for us. None of the changes will alter your course if you're already working on these actions, which you probably aren't. You might be in a pause right now since you were certified last year. But we're mostly just adding, again, more options and more clarity. So nothing's too earth-shattering in that regard. But if you have thoughts on ways we can enhance these further, I was in a call earlier today and someone mentioned for that action 3.4, soon to be 4.4, provide an arts and culture program for youth. Their suggestion was, why not have it be open to seniors? So provide an arts and culture program for seniors. Great suggestion. We weren't thinking of that. So if you have any thoughts like that, happy to take them now. But if you haven't had time to look at any of these, we can move forward to the next slide. All right. So now we're moving on to our new actions. We have detailed descriptions for all of these available. If you'd like to see any of them, I can share them. But for right now, we've got just some of the high level elements for each of these actions. What would be helpful for us is any initial feedback. If there are elements of these actions that are not movable in Simsbury, of no interest to you in town, or things that are very interesting that you're excited about, we'd love to hear that as well. So what are some of the elements that we should make sure that we build in? And if we're missing anything, if there's another option that we should be considering based on what you're working on. So the first one is a new housing action. Implement, got to move all over your faces here. Implement policy for sustainable, diverse housing options. And you can see here, each one of these houses is one of the options. So you wouldn't have to do them all. You could pick and choose whatever you felt like. And each one of them would generate a fair amount of points, I think 20 each. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I think I remember seeing in the draft. So you could really make a lot of movement in your application on this action. So I'm not going to read them to you. I'll leave them up on the screen. Are any of these no-brainers that you're already doing them in town, or things that you might not be interested in, or other, just some initial thoughts?
We have a number of new developments going up that were already in process when we did the certification last year. And based on the POCD, I think that it fell under, I want to say it was under, was it Action 4?
Mm-hmm.
Because, right,
Yep.
Not necessarily was it under housing, but it was under the POCD and hazard mitigation, and resilience planning. And, you know, because a lot of the projects were already in the works, you know, it wasn't new where you could really implement anything new, although it's, what I found was that a lot of what had been planned was already, a lot of what the sustainable CT requirements were already implemented or kind of thought of going forward in the planning process. So that was really good. What I did find, though, was in doing the worksheets for Action 4, that the questions and the answers were, I want to say they were redundant, because I felt like I was providing the same answer over and over for each question. You know, it was located in the same, it was all in the POCD, and I was almost notating the same page numbers as well. So I was like, I felt like that maybe that could be consolidated somehow. You know, looking at the questions and thinking, okay, maybe they are redundant, or maybe it could just be all one question. You know, I don't know. Because I think that also the other issue was that you got points for each individual little question. You know, there was like a ABC, you know, so maybe it can't be consolidated because then it impacts the points.
We are updating the former Action 4.4, the integrate sustainability into your POCD. So it's going to be similar with the worksheet, but the categories are a little bit more open-ended and hopefully more relevant to what's in POCDs. If you'd like, I can send you the draft of that action to take a look at to see if it still feels redundant.
Oh, yeah, sure. That'd be great.
Make a note to do that. And do you have any thoughts on this particular action, this implement policies for sustainable, diverse housing options?
The whole issue of affordable housing in Simsbury has been, it's been challenging, to say the least. So I think as we get into this topic and start to take a look at it. I think the output would be of interest to a lot of people in town management.
Mhm.
We fought an affordable housing section for many, many years, and there's a huge, large sum of money for legal costs was finally approved because the town in general didn't adhere to that 10% of all housing has to be quote unquote affordable.
Mhm.
So that development program was allowed to go forward. And then we've recently implemented another housing development at north end of town, of which a percent was affordable. So we're making progress in that, and it would be interesting as we dive into these kinds of issues to go back and see how much progress we've actually made and what percentage of affordable housing we really do have in Simsbury. I think it would be of interest to a lot of people.
Mhm.
I do know that we were able to get credit for the very first part of that action because we had increased by 10% from the year that we were, I think it was at over 10 years, if I remember correctly. I'm trying, I think it was over 10 years, right? If you increase 10% over 10 years, does that sound right?
It's over a baseline year, I believe.
Yeah. So we did get credit for that. So it's Bob, just to let you know that surprisingly that we had increased the affordable housing maybe more than we had thought. But all of the subsequent actions that fell underneath this, we were not able to pursue.
Okay.
I do know that. So, yeah, I mean, like a lot of what you're saying is true, Bob. I mean, as far as some of the other issues as it relates to the affordable housing.
Jess, this refers to sustainable housing. Would this be a place to include things related to the performance of the building from an energy standpoint? Things like stretch building codes or solar ready or electric vehicle ready or guarantee solar access rights?
I love everything you just said. Those are questions I'm sending up to the group. So I've got stretch building codes, EV ready, and you said some other good things.
Solar ready.
Yep.
And then solar access rights. You know, there's this issue of a lot of these. We just built, 69 or 79 new houses in Simsbury, and they're not allowed to put solar on their roof because of this homeowners association type thing. So they guarantee the right. So if you do that, if you guarantee the right to produce solar, then, or maybe even an ordinance or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's a great point.
That's a very good point.
Other considerations that we might have missed?
This originally this was under action. Was it action 5?
No, this was under category. Actually, this is a whole new action.
Right, but the affordable housing was actually 8, right?
Yes, it was
action
8. Correct.
Okay. All right.
I don't know what its new category number will be off the top of my head. I'm avoiding learning them all until absolutely necessary.
All
right, so I'll move on if there are no other thoughts. But Sherry, maybe you're saying something?
Yeah, well, I'll have to review it and I'll send you an email.
Okay. Yeah, and I do recognize that this might be a lot to take in if you're just seeing it for the first time. And if you have follow-up thoughts, just please let me know. All right, so moving to the next, this is another new action, promote dark skies. And it's a 2-parter where you can do one or both of these options in whatever order you want. The first is to do education to residents in town about light pollution. And the second is to adopt a policy to install outdoor lighting with the IDA, International Dark Skies Association fixture seal of approval. So thoughts on that one?
I love it. That's
I'm
great.
very, I think it's great too. I'm very familiar with this, with the light pollution, nighttime light pollution. You know, we want to be able to see the stars again if we can, which would be really nice. And being able to have nighttime lighting that doesn't produce glare is really key to this.
Somebody's dog really likes it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we are missing? And that's a tough
Well, I was going to ask you, how is this going to be implemented?
Well, the education and outreach would be, you could have events or workshops or put up information on the municipal website or through other channels. And then the policy, that's just a policy that you passed that you shared with us. And how you do that in a town is probably unique to all towns.
Is there credit or for actually doing, for installing them? There's a policy to install them, but doesn't necessarily say that you have to install them. Is there any credit possible for actually actions taken and fixtures implemented?
That's not a part of it yet, but I'm going to put that on the list to consider it.
The IDA fixture seal of approval, IDA is standing for what?
International Dark Skies Association.
Okay. Now, is that the only seal of approval that's out there for a dark sky?
I'm not sure. They're the most prominent, but that's another question I'll bring to the group. That's the only one that I've come across, but
it does seem like that would be limiting.
Yeah, I'm wondering because I'm only thinking about another action which had to do with the benchmarking, where you called out for a specific program that we had to use, which we didn't use, so we couldn't apply for that credit. And I'm just wondering, is it possible maybe and I don't know the answer to this because I'm not involved, but I know Tom Roy would have the answer as it relates to are there other associations that provide seals of approval? I know the Lighting Illuminating Society is very involved with this, with green buildings. I don't know if they actually do a stamp of approval themselves, seal of approval, but I believe there might be some other options.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Other thoughts? This is terrific and very, very helpful.
Good. That's all I have.
All right. Next new action, enhance pollinator pathways. So we were seeing a lot of community match fund projects come through about pollinator pathways. So we decided to make it an action. This is a three-parter. It's having more education events to residents about the importance of pollinators and how to set up pollinator gardens and pathways. Actually having pollinator gardens and pathways in town on municipal property. And then the third option is to pass a pollinator-friendly resolution. And they grow on each other in terms of points. So thoughts on this one?
Let's see, I believe that things are already underway for this. Are they with Parks and Rec? I know up at Simsbury Farms. Sarah, didn't they just?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, so we've they've already done a few things and some things down by the new Hupbrook Park in trying to get some gardens going. And so it's definitely underway. I don't know if there's, the education piece, no, but, and I don't think there's a resolution yet, but I have a feeling that's something Eric probably would get behind. So, I know this is big on the forefront of the selectmen. So this is a good one for us. So we're all for this. Yeah, no, this is definitely something that our Board of Selectmen are very interested in.
there's a group heading up pollinator pathways here in town.
Yep.
And I know that they have started, I think, a process of education as well,
Yep.
talking
Great.
about native seeds and native plants, native berries, the importance of dandelions. I think somebody was saying that we're mowing a lot less
Good.
already
And we're mowing
in
a lot.
town.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's not. Well, I do have a comment on
And
this.
there's-
Now that I think of it, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's
You go
in
ahead, Sarah.
It's in our Parks and Rec, or no, I shouldn't say Parks and Rec, the Open Space and Parks Master Plan that's going to be coming out. When we identified lots of in the parks and open spaces, one of the things they identified for in many of those places are locations where we could have pollinator pathways. So, this is part of our
Right.
future here. So,
There was also a comment from Open Space that this should include birds, because what needs to be done for the bees might be different than the birds. As far as, let's say, like frequency of mowing the grass could be important in the spring for the bees, but maybe more important for birds at another time. And I'm not even going to try to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but when it comes to this, but there does appear to be different requirements for each, and that there should be some focus incorporated with this particular activity or action that incorporates the thoughts for birds as well.
Okay. Great. Any other thoughts? All right. This is, again, very helpful.
I think, that was nice that it was its own action. I think before when we were thinking about it was something that we were doing as a town, and I think I'm not as familiar with all the numbers like you guys are, but I think we were going to try to put it in our own, whatever was our own initiative. I don't think there's something specific for a pollinator pathway. So it's nice that it's its own identified category.
It was formerly
Yeah.
10.1, soon to be 13.1.
That's okay.
Implement your own. All right. Cool. So now we're getting into the homelessness actions. I'm not going to go through the background of why we're doing it, but as you all are probably seeing, homelessness and just vulnerabilities of our community neighbors, we're seeing that more and more with the COVID crisis underway. So we are proposing 4 new actions that will fall within this new category. So this would be a category where we are thinking you've still got to do one action in each of the categories. So one of them would be this homelessness prevention. We are working with the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities and the Connecticut Coalition to End Homelessness and a group of mayors and first selectmen to think through what these actions should include. So the 4 that I'll present to you are extremely bare bones, and they are basically lists of things that we're considering to include. And I'm not going to read them to you, but there are all these long lists. Same thing, anything that seems like it would resonate in town, things that just aren't going to work for whatever reason, like maybe you don't have police department in town or whatever it is, just shout them out and we can go forward from here. So the first of the 4 is increased public awareness and support for efforts to end homelessness. And these are the elements under consideration for inclusion in the action.
I do recall in the presentation the other day that I attended that somebody raised the issue of, especially when it comes to the data, that it doesn't include, I guess she used a term of, I want to say it was a couch, a person who, somebody,
The couch
they're not
surfing?
necessarily, couch surfing, yeah. She said they're not necessarily out in the street,
Right.
but they are someone who is homeless, but they're not being incorporated into the data. And I guess my question is, how do we communicate that information to educate the community about the couch surfer?
That's a good question. And it might be that, I think that question, maybe a larger question is, would guidance from Sustainable CT or one of our partners be available to help with that education and that awareness building? Is that a fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Kind of, some coaching on this. Yeah. Information, just similar to having an equity coach, or maybe that this is incorporated into what the equity coach conveys.
Is there a thought to expand the concept to include something like food insecurity in your town as well as homelessness?
At this point, that wasn't one of them, but I'm going to put it on the list. They're all part and parcel.
That's why I'm raising the issue.
Yeah, that's a great one.
It's just the whole, we live in a very well-to-do town. It is. But there's still a lot of people in our community that are struggling. And to the extent that we have a very active Department of Social Services, it does an awful lot of goodness for our town. But just making people aware of what's going on, and that there are people out there that are struggling to make ends meet. It's something I think would be good for the community. And more importantly, how do you address it?
Mm-hmm. Other thoughts?
I don't have any other thoughts.
Okay. All right. So the second of the four, collect and share homelessness data. And here are some of the points that we're proposing to consider. Do any of these feel like they resonate with Simsbury?
I don't know enough of what is currently being done to, I think, comment on this. Bob, you sound like you might have a little bit more information.
Not on homelessness specifically.
Maybe we could bring this information to social services and get their thoughts on this.
I do know that our one of the issues raised within Department of Social Services is the rent forgiveness activities that are going on across the state, and if that were to stop, that there may be some people that suddenly in our town that would be in trouble.
Well, yeah, I think also that has to go with the, also with the utilities. I know that there's efforts for where you can set up payment plans, but I think a lot of them are saying, well, okay, the moratorium is, there's a moratorium, but it's going to end, and then everything is due, right? So, like, I think similar to what you're saying, Bob, as far as the rent, it's like, right. Okay, once the moratorium ends, right, then everybody's, all your past due is due immediately, all at once. Whether it's rent, whether it's your gas bill or your electric bill, which seems a little crazy.
These are great points. All right, we'll move to the next one. Coordinate municipal services with homelessness response system. Do any of these action items feel like they're underway in town or could be?
Well, we definitely have warming centers. when it gets really cold out that I do know. I don't know what the training consists of, but they must have some kind of training because they do have the warming centers when it's really cold, or if there's some kind of disaster like storms that we've had recently, knocking out power for 2 weeks at a time, that sort of thing. People, and I think what made it really difficult though this time around, now, knock on wood, my neighborhood wasn't impacted, but through Facebook, through our town Facebook pages, there was a lot of people that were struggling because they couldn't go to the shelter because of the coronavirus.
Right.
Like the school wasn't open. Usually it's at the high school. When we had the storm, was it 2010, 2011, and power was out for a good 2 weeks, many people went to the high school, and that's where they were sleeping. Or you could, even if you just needed to charge your phone, you could go there. But none of that was a difficult situation this time because the school wasn't open. So I'm not really sure. I mean, it's a different resilience issue, if you will.
Yeah. Yes, I'm adding that to a different section here. Other thoughts on any of these bullet items?
No, I don't.
Okay. Just want to get that thought. All right. All right.
Are you going to send this to us? Are you going to share this with us?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
I'll share this with you, and I'll also share a PDF that has the list of actions. It has all of them, and you can click on them and go in to see more developed drafts. Though the drafts for these homelessness actions are these lists, so they're pretty skeletal at this point. So this is the fourth of the homelessness actions, and it's sort of the implementing, doing stuff now, improving outcomes for people experiencing homelessness. Do any of these items resonate with Simsbury?
I can't comment on this one.
Yeah, I have no real experience here.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think it would be worth, finding the appropriate people that we could forward this to get their thoughts on it.
That would be great. Okay, so we're going to move forward here. So this should not be a scary page. It is the existing program. So these are the actions that you saw in 2019. These are the categories that were existing in 2019. The next one is our proposed action map. And I will admit, when you first look at this, it's a lot to take in. But I've been staring at it pretty hard for 2 days, and I feel better about it. And the biggest change, one of the biggest changes, is that public service category. So that former category 7 here, strategic and inclusive public services, for us initially was really a place where we put things that didn't quite have a home. So what we've done is we removed that category and replaced it with 8, 9, and 10. So we've got inclusive engagement, communication, and education, strategic materials management, and optimal health and wellness opportunities. So for the most part, anything in black, those are not new actions. You've seen all of these. And we added a couple of new ones within those 3 categories to sort of flesh them out. And then there's, of course, the category 12, that homelessness category. So that's new. All of those actions are new. No one's seen them yet, and we're still developing them. And these other green actions you've seen, and we discussed them. There are a couple of new options based on feedback that we've heard from towns. The blue are things that have been moved around. So again, not new. You've seen them. We're just sort of giving them, putting them in the right bucket. And this red, these two reds, we've just changed the name of a category. So this renewable and efficient energy infrastructure and operations used to be called physical infrastructure and operations. It's really always been our energy category, so we just changed the name to reflect that. And this implement your own sustainability category, this 13, we just changed the name to be more in line with how we're naming everything else. So those are just name changes. They do not change any of the actions. Broke up one category into 3 and added a couple new actions. So that's really it. What I want to kind of dig in is to see if doing that one action in each of the categories, if that requirement still feels achievable for Simsbury. And you've all done so much, and you think you got like 425 points, or you got a lot of points. You worked in a lot of action areas. And with our new credit, if we move forward with the rolling credit, it's probable that things are still going to be rocking and rolling in these existing 1 through 7. So just want to check in to see category by category if there's an action or more than one action that feels achievable for the town. So we can go category by category if that works for you. So just shouting out the numbers of the actions within each category that resonate. And if there are any that just no interest at all, you can shout them out too, or we can just sort of forget about them and just speak about the things that are rising to the top. But at a broad level, does it seem feasible for Simsbury to complete one action in each of the 12 categories?
I think the number 4 was a challenge for us in 2019.
Okay.
And if everything stays the same, it may pose a continued challenge. And the reason why is that we do not have a council. And there's no plans for one. And I think most of the actions were, the first thing was that you had to have the council, and then everything was after that. So if you don't have a council, then it made it difficult to be able to meet any of the other actions.
Are you speaking of category 4, vibrant and creative cultural ecosystems?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's based on having an arts council.
You don't need to have an arts council. That's one sub-action of what will be soon to be 4.2. It was formerly 3.2. That was one of the options. You could have an arts council. But I think in that action, there's 11 subcomponents, and we asked you to do 3 of them, and that's one of those. But this category sometimes feels overwhelming for people, maybe because it doesn't have as many options. But I'd be very happy to talk through any of those with you now or at a different time moving forward. I know you got credit for having for 4.1, which was 3.1. You have a CT visit site, so that's something that would be transferable and would still fit the bill. But we, of course, you want to do more than just the low hanging fruit. So we can talk
Right.
through some of the others. There are other options in this 4.2 that usually come to the top with towns. Like one is having arts and culture in municipal marketing. So if you've got it on your website, or you have Facebook pages where you're talking about arts events that are coming up, or culture type things that are going on, dance shows, whatever it might be. That's something, maybe you have a poet laureate, maybe you don't, but these are some things that we can sort of talk through whenever.
Yeah, we submitted for, like you just mentioned, 4.1 for the Connecticut Now, or
the CT visit?
Connecticut Visit, yeah. But that was it. That was the only one that we were able to provide for, and we were not able to meet any of the other ones.
Well, this is actually...
I'd have to go back.
Are there any things that relate to arts and culture that you're doing in town that aren't on this list that we should be considering for future actions?
I don't know. Does anybody else have a comment on this? I mean,
we do community-wide things, like just this past week we held a free town-wide event that was marketed to show a movie in the park.
Yeah.
You know,
And then
that
there's
was, it
also
was
the
sold out and
history
great.
walk.
There's another one coming up. So, and we do things like that, you know, concerts, they're free community band concerts,
Right.
that
We
are
have
held.
the
But I think all
Seaward-
those things that we looked at didn't fit the bill last time. And those, we do a lot of those things, and it would be nice if those things were
Right.
included.
Well, I'm hearing
We
a
also-
couple of things in that. So you're having these events, which we would probably direct you to put them under hold a sustainability event. However, if they're town held events and the town is funding them, then there's likely a budget line item for arts and culture events, and you might title it different, but at some rate, there's money that the town's dedicating to arts and culture, supporting arts and culture. So that is part of 4.2. So that would be one of the three. You mentioned you're getting the word out, so you're marketing them in through municipal outlets. That's another one of the three that you need. So now you're up to 2. And the third that you might, and this is something that we guide towns towards because it's usually, we've seen that most towns are doing it, and it's not across the board, but supporting arts and culture programming at the library. And it's possible that if you have an active library that they're doing some of this arts and culture work just because it's a pretty natural fit with library programming, which could be
Right. I would agree with that. I think a lot of our culture things go through the library.
So if you've got those 3
They do.
things that that have already happened, that seems like that now 4.2 would be, you could easily satisfy that action.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the Seaward Johnson bronze statues distributed throughout the town.
That's a
and
perfect.
What's that?
I think that's a perfect example of something else. It's
Yeah.
definitely arts and culture. We
Yeah.
just can figure out how to get it into somewhere.
And they also have an open studio program where the art galleries and the studios are open to the public over the weekend. I want to say it's in the spring. And then the history walk, which is part of the celebration you just mentioned, Sarah, the 350th. They had a number of events planned for our 350th anniversary this year that had to be postponed, delayed, canceled, and rethought in terms of how they could do it. And so now they've launched this history walk, which is pretty cool. You can either do it online or physically do it as a walk. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say this, and there's Simsbury Celebrates that we do the day after Thanksgiving there that certainly I would think would be able to fit in somewhere. There's a lot of cultural activities that are in there too. So
I think once you get going on once you're underway with this one, let's set up a call and just hash it out. I'm hearing a lot of.
I said we might just need help trying to figure out how to get what we do.
Yeah, and we've sort of on that one we've kind of gone not one level deeper. That's not the right way to say it. But you've got all these awesome events, but we're asking for funding, so it might not like click right away that these are related. But you're having these events, so you're paying for them, or there's something in the budget, or you've dedicated % of your proceeds to whatever. Like, I think that we can find a home for this stuff. And if we can't, maybe there's some themes that are coming out. Maybe there's some art campaigns or other that could be future actions based on the cool stuff that's happening in town.
Now, how does you said that equity is kind of the foundation to all actions now going forward?
Well, it's just
action number
it's
one.
the foundation to our program, making sure that the benefits of any of these actions that you do are spread out amongst the people who live in town, and the unintended consequences are sort of minimized. So it's so foundational that we put it at number 1. What we're not saying is you have to apply the toolkit to every action in the program. But if you want to, you're more than welcome, and that would be awesome.
Okay. I was just wondering, is there, in the sub-actions, is there a specific sub-action that ties action 1 into it?
There's not. But that's something we could bring to the group.
I guess I mean, we have all these wonderful things. Now, I think most of them probably, I'm assuming are equitable, but I guess I was just wondering, is there a specific guideline that I know we've got the equity toolkit, but if it's going to apply to each action, then maybe there's like something specific.
We haven't gone deep on that, so that's a great point, and we'll bring it up and discuss how it could look and keep that one alive.
Okay.
So of all the new categories, looking at 8, 9, 10, and 12, does it seem like within each of those there's something that could be accomplished in Simsbury? I think you already mentioned you're having lots of events, so 8, you can check that one off, it seems. Are there others that feel like you're already doing them?
With the material management, I had heard, like, are there issues with relating to the recycling facilities in Hartford? I mean, is that posing an issue?
Yeah,
for
it is.
towns?
They're not going to invest in basically renovating that or restoring that. So the state really needs to tackle the source of this stuff. So I think 9 looks like a really good one to have there to get us doing stuff. I don't. When I look at those, I'm not aware of us doing any of those things now, but I'm not. We may be, and I wouldn't know.
Okay.
Well, we are doing the mattress. We do the mattress recycling, and I think the textile recycling program is a challenge because of what's going on with the facility in Hartford. So I'm not sure about that. The food waste is something we want to explore, definitely. So.
Okay, that's great.
We could probably just interview Mike Payne and ask him about the materials management and what program.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right.
Yeah. Particularly since he sits on the board. Board of
yeah,
Selectmen.
Absolutely.
And all of these, if they're in black, all of those action descriptions are live and on the website currently.
Okay.
No, I think it's good to have this. This is such an important topic, and this may be an example of just the fact that it's there, and we're looking to stay certified. We'll now actually do some new stuff.
Love that.
Actually, can I? Oh, am I on mute?
Nope.
No, I'm not on mute. Going back up to 8. One of them is the 8.3, the train municipal representative.
Mm-hmm.
Could that be dually counted? Right. I believe one of the things was in number 1 for optimize for equity. Right.
Oh, no, it cannot
or was that
be.
overall? It cannot. Okay.
Yeah, we've tried to write in that there's no double counting. So the train
Gotcha.
municipal representatives is to have your at least one from your P&Z and one from your inland wetlands, because those are statutorily required commissions.
For those specific.
Yeah, attend a training relevant to the commission. And then 2 other commissions of your choice attend a training. It can all be the same training if they're all happen to be relevant. And it can be online,
Gotcha.
in person, whatever. You want to watch a webinar, just something to broaden the base of knowledge about what you're overseeing.
Would the homelessness workshop count for that?
Maybe not for inland wetlands, but P&Z it could count, I think.
I think we already got credit for that because there was this electric school bus toolkit that Live Green Connecticut did, and I took part in that, and I think that we got a certificate that said we get sustainable CT points for it.
Oh, cool. They're writing that into their certificates?
Yeah, Daphne Dixon and her team, they apparently coordinated with someone at Sustainable CT that if you complete this electric school bus training, which is pretty extensive,
Mm-hmm.
then you get I think 5 points.
Cool. All right. Well,
Yep.
must have been somebody else on the team. Well, we love partnerships. What about the health and wellness, the new category 10?
Yeah. I was going to ask you to elaborate on what growing spaces is.
On what? I'm sorry, my dog.
10.4.
10.4?
10.4. What is the growing space? Can you elaborate on what that is?
So develop and promote the community gardening. It can be any kind of garden. So this.
Oh, it says growing on mine.
It doesn't. It does on my old one. Yeah, this was new. I noticed the same thing because I thought they took out community gardening. That is different from what was sent to us before.
Okay. Well, at any rate, this is all sort of moving in place. This is about community growing, community gardening. It's just not, we're not meaning only vegetables. So if you've got a community growing space that either it's vegetables, it could be fruit, it could be flowers, as long as people are provided the opportunity to have a horticultural experience, then you're good to go. So originally we had limited this to vegetables, but we've received comments from towns that they've got other types of gardens that we'd want to include. So we proposed this option. And this used to be a part of the former Action 4.3, which is now 5.3, develop agriculture-friendly practices. So it was one of the subcomponents that you could pick, and maybe you remember that, maybe you don't. But we've got so many towns doing community match fund projects about community gardens that we just decided to make it its own action and give people credit for it there.
Okay. Now, does that have to be developed or promoted as a no charge?
No, we've seen some that have some fee. It just has to be attainable. So if it costs $500 for the year, that's kind of a lot, and that'll limit some people. But if it's something that's reasonable, and we're not defining what reasonable is in dollar values, then it's okay. There are costs associated with keeping the garden up and sort of maybe security lighting or whatever. And we recognize that, but if it's exorbitant and exclusionary in its pricing, then that's not going to work. It does have to be open to all, and the pricing needs to be sort of reasonable if there's a price.
Is there, as it relates to rebates, let's say for electric vehicles or home energy solutions, energy efficiency, do you tap into that kind of thing in any of these new actions as it relates to tapping into like Energize Connecticut or Connecticut Green Bank and incentive programs that are out there?
We don't give points for partnering with organizations, but we encourage using any resource a town can use to get the work done to make life easier. And we try to partner ourselves with the Green Bank and others to make those opportunities known and show how they relate to the actions. For instance, Green Bank works with the group Posigen to run the Solar for All campaigns, and that's one of our no-cost assistance programs. So we just bundled them up together, and we've got it on our website, and we send it out to towns saying this is an opportunity. So Green Bank was always doing it with Posigen. We've sort of piggybacked off that and sort of showed the overlap. Also with the Green Bank Solar Map program, we've tried to sort of co-market on that and how that can relate to some of the actions. So we do that whenever we become aware of opportunities that towns might want to take advantage of.
We weren't able to participate in that though, because I think it was for low-income housing.
Yeah, low to moderate income housing. So there is that threshold, and if your community doesn't have enough of that market base, then it doesn't quite fit. And it's Green Bank and Posigen are they run and operate the program, so they're setting the standards, and we're just sort of making those opportunities known where they could work if they might work.
Okay.
Any other?
I think
Go ahead.
Well, I have thoughts relating to the dashboard.
Yes.
Going back to when we were submitting, and also with regards to when I printed out, for instance, I printed out our report, our submission, so I had a full report, but it doesn't print out how many points we actually received. It doesn't print out the comments, and it doesn't print out the documents. It just highlights the action and the sub-actions.
Want to go in and look at that together?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to share a new screen with you and hope that it works. Do you see the home page here?
Yep.
All right. So I'm just going to log in to myself, and just so you know what mine looks like is not what yours looks like, because we see everybody, and I'm just going to go into your application. Everyone, don't look. This is hidden private information, and it's being live streamed. All right, Simsbury.
Yeah, it is. It is being live streamed.
So this is your certification report. So when you log into your application, this is what you'll see. So actually, this is not your certification report. This is your application.
No.
So you log into the dashboard, you can navigate here. If you want all of the comments, you can go up top. You see the 23 comments. Have you found this? Is this new or?
So the report that if you go to, it says Sustainable CT Community Certification Report.
Yep. So that's
download
your
PDF
application report. Do you see this new map? I just switched screens pretty quickly.
Yeah, I did. I saw it. I couldn't believe how many. You had 110 certified or registered, I mean?
Yeah, 112. We added a few. You have 425 points, and you can get that by just clicking on your dot.
Right.
It's not actually on the report, which is kind of weird. Oh, no, it is. It's right up here.
Right here, yeah. So now if you scroll down, this is the one I'm referring to, because this is what I printed out. And so you'll see it doesn't give you any of when you print this out, it doesn't give you the points that you actually received. Like even here, just looking at it at a glance, it will show what we requested, but not what we actually received. And you don't see the comments. And you don't see the actual.
This is
what's that?
Facing. So we don't want any old person to go on and see that the reviewer said, you got credit for 3 of the 5, the other 2 you messed up and you need to do X and Y. So those comments you can only find on your private application. So those are not for everyone. They're just for you. So they're only on the dashboard. You can go in and grab them. And I hope that
okay.
Flip-flop. And then on the certification report, there's a.
So this one is open to the public. Then you're saying this one report right here. Okay.
Report, anyone can go on, and you do not need to be signed in and see this stuff. And we have it's a quirk of the system where everything that you've put in for an action. So let's say it's a 3-part action, and you put in for all 3 parts, but you only got credit for 2 of the parts. It's going to show up on your certification report because you got credit for that work. But that 3rd part that you didn't get credit for, it's still there. Sometimes it's because you had one massive document, like let's say you had a PDF that included all 3 of those parts. It's really we can't go in and edit each one of those and pull out the stuff you get credit for. And some of it, it becomes massively overwhelming when we've got, 800 actions to review and make sure they're all right. So we just put in a disclaimer at the top that says the approved information. So we do say what you got credit for in here. And the points say, look, you got 15 points for 1.4, and here's how that breakdown is. This list might include, and it might not, but it might include some things that didn't get credit. But we've tried to bring to the top the stuff that you got points for by just putting in this approved information box. And it's a little bit messy. It's something that we've worked pretty tirelessly with our web creators to fix. And next year we should have a fix for it where you can go in and hide documents. But it's just, the website it's so massive and there's so many moving parts, which make it great and usable, but also make it kind of challenging to make updates because they have such deep ramifications to all of the things that are generated off of that. That's a kind of a long answer. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Well, no. Well, as far as the points, you did, because I was thinking I was thinking that that's what we requested, not what we were approved. I didn't totally read that section correctly. But I do think that having a separate area for each sub-action would help organize, because, you know, when you have an A, B, C, D part to an action, you might have more than one person working on it. So I might be working on A, and Mark might be on B, and Sarah might be on C. And when and if you're working on it, like it's in process, you know, you're kind of having to also deal with what else has been put in, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think, like, just looking at this here, the supporting documentation, well, it's not in order, and one might relate to another, but right. Sustainable CT is going to see it all kind of jumbled like this, yes, because it's based on when it was uploaded.
That's a great suggestion. So you don't think that you would feel overwhelmed by seeing, let's say it's a 5-part action, your submission boxes would be like 15 boxes by the end of the day with all the different components. That wouldn't be too overwhelming to look at once?
No, because, you know, if like I said, if I'm working on 1.4.A or 1.4.1A, mm-hmm, or yeah, 1.4.1, and then somebody else is doing 1.4.2, you know, I think if they each had their own section, it would actually be more organized. Mm-hmm. And
it's easier to see if it's done or not done. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think the other challenges that we had was the pop-up box that would have the worksheets and the additional information, mm-hmm, you know, because, you know, like we would print out the master action sheet and it would have all the requirements. And so we would start uploading the information, and then we'd be like, oh, what's this? And open it up, and here's a 5-part worksheet that now has to be filled out to go along with it with additional documentation. And so I don't know if if it says on the dashboard, you know, there is a work, you know, does it say it or does it not say it until you open up the box? And I think the challenge is also that when I would open up the box, it would not fill up my laptop. It would just be like, you know, a half a sheet. So you couldn't really see a lot of information. Mm-hmm. And the only way you could see the full sheet was if you printed it out.
Well, you can scroll down on those. I
do know that. Yeah.
Okay.
But it was like, I was getting like maybe a quarter of it showing up on my screen.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
They are just pop-up boxes. Let me just pull them up so I'm seeing what you. Oh, you mean like because this is kind of cumbersome? Yeah, because you can't see it all in one spot. You could get the PDF and then not print it, but that might also be an annoyance.
Well, see how yours is. You're getting a full page. It wouldn't do that on a.
It's the get PDF.
Oh, right. Yep.
And that might not work using Chrome.
But now, if you go back, it doesn't say anywhere.
Which part? This?
If you go back, no, if we go back to not this, exit out of this.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you click on that action again, and okay. So here it doesn't really say, okay, there is a 5-part worksheet that goes with this action. You don't know until you say, oh, you click on the PDF.
Well, we do.
But you don't necessarily know to click on the PDF.
The thing, and maybe we do need to do a better job. The most important thing to us, and this might be helpful for you to know as we review actions, we look at submit and what we tell you.
Green.
And if you don't submit that, you don't get credit. And in this submit is where we put links to any documents. Here, like an example. That's how that's how I do it. And we're about to go through our reviews.
Okay.
Start today. For us, this is the Bible, the action description. The master action list is just something we've created to try to get everything in one spot.
So you might want to put right there, click on Get PDF to see that. Like it doesn't really direct you to click on that button.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, only because all of the information on the PDF is in this, if you just scroll down. But you think that having a tag right here would be important?
Yeah, like because of the worksheets. Because once you open that, then it will say, okay, A has a worksheet, B has a separate worksheet, C has a separate worksheet.
I'm going to go into that has the worksheets.
I think that was 4. I think it was 4, action 4 that we had that.
Yep. There are a couple of them. And there actually will be a few more moving forward. We want to streamline some submissions with worksheets so that it's simpler for your town, for you to know what to expect and for us to do the reviews. So like here, 4.1, the submit. So submits the Bible. You got to look at it, a copy of the adopted POCD and a completed worksheet. And that's going to go to Word, which is slow to open on my computer. Oh, but it opened. And then you've got to do that. So maybe we need to be more clear that the only thing we really care about is that we're getting, that's not the only thing we really care about. That's phrased poorly. The thing that we're judging your score on is this submit. Everything else is meant to be helpful. But if we don't see what's
okay,
and no credit will be granted.
Okay.
That's a good point. It's not something we've heard. And just to be upfront about the website, as I mentioned, it's pretty expensive and challenging to update it, but these are good points. So we've got website edits kind of queued up based on budgetary availability, but I'm going to bring these up and kind of run it by the team, see if others are experiencing the same issues and if there are changes that we can be planning for. But this is really great. This is not feedback we've heard before, so it's helpful.
Well, there is one other item too that we ran into a major hiccup because we queued everything up on Google Drive.
Oh yes, I remember that.
Yeah, so we had a shared Google Drive. We got all of the documents ready to go, and then started just uploading everything. And that's when we realized that we couldn't upload direct from Google.
Right. Yeah. So maybe we can create some guidance to upload as you go and note a warning that nothing will be transferable. It has to be manually done.
Well, it can't be as well, no, I could not, like if I was in the action and you go to upload, I could not tap into the Google Drive from upload.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it probably wouldn't be
to grab to get the document. So I had to take the document and save it on, in the computer and the desktop or whatever, it's a PDF, and then grab it That was the only way you could grab the document. So, it was double the work. Yeah,
I'm sorry that
it was. So I think you might want to let people know not to use Google Drive as group, different committees that are looking to certify, or if there's a way that you can allow to be able to tap into the Google Drive to access the documents.
Yeah, we can definitely make some sort of
maybe
guidance page.
Tell people what platform you suggest we use.
Well, Google Drive is cool because it's free and accessible.
Right.
It doesn't transfer. So if towns have access or people have access to other things like Basecamp or other the things that you need to pay for, then they can definitely use those. Yeah, this is good. What other feedback do you have on the dashboard or anything else about the program at all?
Excuse me, Jess, this is Mark. I'm sorry, I need to jump off at this point, but my feedback on the program is it's amazing. It's look at how successful it's been in getting towns to do an incredible amount of actions that they either wouldn't have otherwise done or not everybody knew they were doing. So I think it's great. I think you've made some great improvements to it. Thank you for your time tonight. I'm sorry I have to jump off now.
No, thanks for joining us, Mark.
All right, take care, everybody.
Bye.
All right, bye. Thanks, Mark.
Good night.
No, I don't. I have probably some other information, but I'll send it to you via email because I want to take a look at the what you presented a little bit further.
Okay.
And but I concur with Mark. I mean, I think the support that you personally, have given Simsbury has been incredible. We had an awesome fellow who assisted us with getting Regina is the one who really kind of got us going because she went through and saw what we had. She kind of looked through our website and she really kicked us off. So without her, I don't know if we would have been able to even get it together to submit. So the resources and the support have been really incredible, and we thank you all for that.
Well, thanks for that. And you're doing amazing and inspiring work, so it doesn't really feel like work. It's a pleasure to work with you all.
Right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Our equity coach was also awesome, Isa Mujahid. Yeah, he was great. So, and I thought, the information he conveyed was really informative and enlightening.
Good. So in terms of next steps, I'll send you this PowerPoint. I will send you a list of the actions that are being updated. I will also send the correct link to the webinar if anyone feels like watching that. Though we covered most of it, though the presenter my colleague Alyssa did a much better job of presenting than I did tonight.
No, you did a great job.
No, you did great.
You can send it over. We can set up more calls. Whatever you need, we're here for you at any point. So just let us know.
Great. Okay, so if that's it, if nobody else has any other comments, then I guess we can make a motion to bring the meeting to a close if somebody wants to do that. And before you do that, actually, let me just remind everybody our next meeting is October. What did I say? Was it October 21st. And we will have Abe from Sustainable CT joining us to present Community Match Fund. So, okay. Now we can go to a close.
This is Sarah, and I will make a motion to close the meeting.
Great. Does anybody want to second it?
Yep.
Okay. And all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Thank you.